And now Work Matters with Julie Mann.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show that ponders, does work really matter? And if it does, why? It does matter, and we've been doing a series with Ira Wolfe, and Ira is on the phone with us today. He's the president and the chief Googlization officer of Success Performance Solutions. And more than that, I mean, Ira is just a wealth of information, energy, thought leader around the place of the work world, change that we're all being impacted by. So I tell you, buckle your seatbelt because this is going to be a great 15 minutes. So Ira, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks very much, Julie. Great to continue this conversation.
Yeah,
it's been fun.
Absolutely. So we were going to talk about kind of like that employability space. And I was thinking back, so Ira's written his most recent book. He's written 6 books, but his most recent book, I stall on this every single time. It's help me out, Ira, the recruiting in the age of Googlization. So it's recruiting in the age of Googlization. There we go. We even said it together. Yeah. So that is his most recent book. And, you know, we talk about employability, but one of the sections in his book talks about saving talent acquisition. And so let's kind of combine those two while we're chatting, Ira, because I think talking about, you know, what's kind of going on in talent acquisition and recruiting strategy, especially for people listening, because that market right now is tough. It's a really, really tough space. So let's talk about kind of that talent acquisition space a little bit. And, you know, what's your thoughts? What's going on with, you know, kind of recruiting strategies, talent acquisition? You know, what's kind of going on in that space from your perspective?
I guess the one word that sums it up is VUCA. You know,
correct.
We talked about that before.
Volatile,
keeps coming complex,
back.
And ambiguous.
Yeah.
And then and part of that, what's that cause? It causes disruption. So it's been a disruptive space for the last few years, certainly up through February. You know, with 3 point something unemployment for skilled labor for college grads, it was at the 2.0 or under for that. So talent acquisition has certainly been a problem. Now, I won't say it's common sense, but the kind of common word on the street is well, now what? We have all this high unemployment, and that's gone away. And the reality is it hasn't, because the pandemic did not increase the skill levels of everybody that was out there. It actually made the skill gaps worse. And so from an employability standpoint is when employers are looking at the market, now there are people available because they've been laid off or companies are shutting down or for many reasons, or they said, hey, we're not going to go back and do that 4-hour commute every day.
Right.
We sort of like this. We're going to look for a company that's more local or that allows us to work remotely. So there's going to be a lot of transition there. So there's definitely going to be more talent. The problem is when you have 50 million people that are on unemployment, companies struggled before with having several hundred or several thousand people apply and then filtering, going through that filter system. We talked about that in an earlier segment. What happens now when that needle in the haystack, which is a good metaphor, when the needle in the haystack, now you just dumped 50 million tons of additional hay on top of the haystack, but didn't increase the number of needles.
Right.
So where before was, how do we find people? How do we get them to leave their job? There's just nobody looking. It's so hard. And it became you needed a strategy to be able to identify where the talent was and then to entice them to come over.
And now, to show up, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. Now you got a bigger problem. Now you have this problem is now here's an example. And this happened maybe about 6 or 8 weeks ago, so it's happening more often now. I got a call from a client who used to complain that they'd only get 25 or 50 people, and out of that, there might have been 1 or 2 people that they could even interview. They put an ad up on Indeed thinking that, hey, now's the time to do this. And within 24 hours, they had 1,300 applications.
Wow.
Now, when you have 25 or 50, using using emails and using a spreadsheet to have your admin document them and put them in a spreadsheet and talk about them, it was a waste of time, but it wasn't a waste of that much time. What do you do with 1,300?
1,300.
I mean, they had no process in place. They had no screening. And they go, well, yeah, Indeed, it was through Indeed. So Indeed has a screening questionnaire. Yeah, but everybody passes through it.
Right.
And people can bypass that doing the quick apply. So you needed a process, you needed a technology. That's one of the biggest disruptors. And the fact is I fully expected. Most of my business comes from pre-employment and leadership testing. So we do the pre-hire testing, and a lot of the leadership testing is actually hiring within the company. Who do we promote next?
Right.
I fully expected, based on 9/11 and 2008, that my business would just dry up and quit. There wouldn't be anybody hiring after March. And our second quarter, we were up 58% over the previous year.
Wow, that's great.
So there were a lot of companies that were still busy. Fortunately, we had companies in transportation and logistics and healthcare, and they weren't
essential.
But they were hiring. And since then, I've seen more and more companies, except for we don't have a lot of retail. We don't have a lot of entertainment and, the hospitality. But in the industry, I've started to see them come back. We need to be smarter. We need to know who we're going to bring back, which are the right employees, which are the best employees.
Right.
Or we're going to change our culture a little bit. We're going to have to upgrade our services running at 50% or 75% capacity. We need to focus more on customer service, not just speed and turnover. So we need people who do we hire? Right. So there's been more of an effort to use technology, and I include assessments in the technology to be able to get there. So what companies are starting to do are saying, who is more employable? How do we find those people? And from a career, from individual standpoint, is many people were looking to upgrade their skills.
Right.
And there's a few companies that have done that. We had a couple small clients, 60 employees, 50 employees, that we introduced an online learning platform during the pandemic. It was on my back table, and figured now's the time to do it.
Right.
And they said, we want to keep our people busy. We want to upgrade their skills. So some took an opportunity to upgrade their Excel skills. Some people took an opportunity to upgrade their sales skills or leadership skills, management skills. There was a whole host of things that people opted to do.
Right.
And so there was a lot of companies that got it and said, we're going to have to take the reins, and we're going to have people, we're going to have to train and upskill our own employees. And also, when we bring people in, we want to have an opportunity, because we're going to hire the right people, but they may not have all the right skills right away. They have the right attitude. And so we're going to upgrade those. A lot of other companies are still saying, we don't have the money, we don't have the time. That's not our responsibility. That should be the schools. That should be the training programs. That should be the government.
Well, and even if you go back to that term of employability, right? I mean, having that mindset of, is this person employable, and can I get them, let's get out of the purple squirrel. Can I get that person? Is it the right person for the organization? And I can groom them into, what I need, right?
Yeah, and it's identifying what are those skills. So, you still have the people that, they have to have a background, they have to have a degree. And for many jobs you do. I mean, there's obviously jobs you have to have the technical knowledge. But beyond that is, there are a lot of people that have it, especially now. They're out of work in a lot of those jobs. Critical thinking. I've had more calls for critical thinking tests. Right. Or they don't even say, is there a way that we can test people for common sense? Well, common sense is sort of a broad term, but how do they make a decision?
Right.
Are they inquisitive? Are they curious? Yeah, you can measure that.
Right.
How do they evaluate risk? Do they base their decisions on facts or gut? Do they tend to be open-minded, or do they just kind of do more traditional? They do things the way they've always done them.
Right.
That all can be measured. How quickly can they think? How quickly can they learn? That all these things are really easy to measure.
Right.
It takes 15 or 20 minutes. Sometimes, it depends on how many things you want to measure. 30 minutes. The cost has come down through technology. So critical thinking is one. But we talked about this, I think, in an earlier segment, but they all run together. We've been talking a lot about
yeah, it's all right.
We talk about adaptability.
Right.
People want people to be flexible, and then the first thing they do is they bring them in and they tell them that's not the way we do it around here.
Right, exactly.
Or I love that we want people to take initiative. And why didn't this person work out? Well, they didn't follow our rules.
Right. We gave them a book and they didn't follow it. Right.
Yeah, well, they took initiative, or they didn't have permission. So people have the employers who get it are, whether you call them competency, skills, or abilities, or whatever traits,
right,
is that you identify what's really important. Because fortunately, because of technology and because the psychometric world grew up and become pretty advanced, and there are inexpensive ways to do it, there's not much you can't test for.
Right.
So we test. What I see more and more people looking for, and this goes on both sides. Employers are looking for this, and candidates, employees, workers are looking to develop these skills. It's critical thinking, adaptability, empathy. And again, that's a tough thinking about that, but a learning to appreciate other person, walking in other people's shoes. Right. Collaboration. Even when people throw out the term team build, we need good team players. I said, are you looking for the Chicago Bulls that, when they were in their heyday, they were a pretty dysfunctional group. Right. But they won championships because they had a great coach. Right. Or are you looking people that walk and talk like you? That they never push back because they just want to be a good team player. Right. And so companies have to define what that looks like. And once they define it, then finding people who fit that culture, who fit your skills, isn't really that difficult. Because and I've said this over and over again, the bar is so low in talent acquisition that you can fall over it. You don't have to be really good. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be better than the competition. And for now, the competition is bad. People haven't focused on their employee brand. They still copy and paste a job description, which is a legal document to recruit people. All you have to do is write a one-paragraph story of what it's like to work at your company and why, what's in it for the candidate. Instead of posting a job description, write a 500 words paragraph, or it doesn't have to be one paragraph, but 500 words of what it's like to work at your company. Right. And you'll get people.
Well, and one of the things I kind of like about, I really like that position because, what I find so many times is that when you're trying to work on recruiting with someone and they always think they want to replace the person that just left, as opposed to thinking about what they need in the position. So we might be really clear about what we want in the candidate, but can they always be really clear? Rarely not. Can they be clear on what they want from that position? And then it becomes the match, right? So, we can have all of these things, and if we want all of these skill sets, but is that what the job demands? And therefore, is that a good match of the person to the position? And, so many times we don't understand what the position is, and so we put this, job description posting out there as opposed to the story to attract the right person. And then we say, well, we can't find the people who fit this thing because as they meet candidates, perhaps some of the thoughts around what that position might do, might migrate to something different. So it's a very complicated kind of dance, if you want to say.
Yeah. Well, I heard this. This is my 25th year I'm in this business, and I heard this at one of the very first conferences I went to. And somebody said, "Think about it. If the job could talk, what would it say?"
That's a great line, Ira. I really like that one. That's
and
really
I forget
good.
about it,
Yeah.
but you just brought it up. I forget to use that often.
Yeah.
I use it in different ways. But basically, if the job can talk, how would it describe itself? What does it do? And that's the solution. And going back to who should we look for? How do we know if they're qualified? But by doing that, I mean, even if that's how you frame a reference from a job post, if the job can talk, what would it say? It, put it in a story, and you just stand out. Again, it's about engagement, how to get people interested. Now, after that, we have to go back to our earlier conversation. You can't have some crazy long form application. No way is sending you, no top tier talent is sending you back a PDF. Right. You're not downloading it, filling it out, scanning it in, and sending it back to you.
What about you have to? What about I bumped into this the other day? You had to come in and fill out a paper application.
Oh yeah. We want to judge your character.
Right. Yeah. We want to be sure that you know how to write. So that's again kind of how that talent acquisition space is shifted. How we're getting candidates in. We're kind of coming to the end of this segment again, and I just wish we could talk forever, Ira. But right for now, we're gonna wrap this one up, and I can't thank you again for the series of segments. Everybody, please listen to all of them. Look for Ira. Look for his book. Recruiting in the Age of Googlization. And again, heartfelt thanks, Ira, for joining the show.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much.
All righty. For everybody listening, as you know, let's be sure that we impact today, we transform tomorrow. And until next time, let's make work matter.